Welcome to the Prepperverse. I'm Doc JMO. Hope everybody's having a good day. In continuing with our theme recently, this week when we had talked about making sure that you have the 7 essentials included in your bug out bag. You know, we were talking about the construction. What do you have in a bug out bag? What is a bug out bag? And we gave you some examples, and we gone through 7 items that you don't want to leave out, not items, but categories, if you will, that you don't want to leave out of your bug out bag as you're packing it. Now that's the main 7 categories that you want to have covered. Not to say that you can't, it's only those things. There's other things that you could take in, like important paperwork or what have you. But anyway, these are just like the 7 basics that you must have, and you don't want to leave one of them out. You know, you can just, at the 7 at the minimum, I should say, to make it easier. So anyway, we had covered water, we had covered fire, and today we're going to talk about shelter. Because that's very important. That's another category that you want to have covered in your bug out bag, because if by chance you have to walk, you have to ruck it, you know, you have to sling it and head across the road through the woods, you're going to want to have this item in there, the shelter, because you're going to have to lay up and rest at some time, and you want to isolate yourself from the elements to protect yourself. So create your own little safe environment, if you will, so you're not exposed to the elements, whether it's the rain or the cold, the snow, what have you. So anyway, what I have done is to cover the shelter in my bag. I'm a big proponent, because it works for me. And it may not work for you, but it's an idea. I like the use of a tarp, either a 12 by 10, or if I'm feeling luxurious, I might go 12 by 12. Get myself a little bit extra space. And that's just for me. If I was gonna, and my wife would, and her bag would have a 12 by 12 or a 12 by 10. Set something up for her, and not say we can't put those tarps in a configuration where we could use both of them together and have more room. So that's always an option. But for an individual, is kind of what I'm talking about, in your pack, you're going to want to have something for you, so you can have that isolation from the elements. The tarp, I like it because you can set it up in so many configurations. Imagine with me, if you will, an A-frame. You've probably seen some of them in the old Boy Scout books or in movies. It's just a tarp, you know, folded or creased in the middle, down on the sides, and it's just kind of staked out. Though the thing I will bring up real quick before I do forget, if you're going to use a tarp, you're going to want 550 cord. So you can use that as a ridge line. You can string that line between 2 trees, then you can drape your tarp over that, if you can imagine that, and then you can just kind of stake it out on either side. So there's that configuration. There's many others. You could just look it up on you know, here on YouTube. Some other preppers will have different configurations, which is something I will be doing later on this summer. After we move out of our apartment into our house, I'll get back out into the field, and we will record some video where we'll show different construction of different shelters. So we will do that. So the tarp is very versatile, because you can have like a straight lean-to, the A-frame, like I was saying, or you could just wrap if you had to, if you're moving quick, you could just wrap yourself up in it and plop on the ground. If it's raining, I've done that before. With a tarp also, if you make like a lean-to, now my son and I have done this on one national bob camp out on Shofar Mountain, and it got down to about 15 to 17 degrees that night. And we knew it was going to get that cold, and it kind of gets a little breezy. So what we did, and this is the first time we did something like this, though I had read about it, is both he and I constructed a rock reflecting wall. And I was in my location, he was just not too far from me in his location, but we constructed a rock wall right in front of our lean-to, not too far away from the lean-to. And then we had burned wood in front of that, so that heat from the fire would bounce off that wall and kind of radiate towards us. And I'm telling you, it worked great. I slept very, very well. I kept extra wood up by my head, so when I started getting a little bit cold and the fire would die down, just grab another piece of wood, throw it on the fire, and so you could do things like that. You're not just stuck in one configuration, which, by the way, those 2 rock walls are still there on Shofar Mountain. You can take a tent. You can take a 1-man, 2-man tent, whatever your thing is. I also do have a 2-man tent. I have taken that out when I go practice carrying my bob in it, and it works very well. In my pack, I do have room for that, but my preference is the tarp. Ease of setup, ease of takedown. It just works really, really well. But once again, as you build your pack, you're going to build it to your specifications, to what aligns with your philosophy and your experience of taking it out. And the neat thing about this building your bob and learning to work out of it is that you're going to develop your own experiences to see what works well for you. Another item, if your pack's not that big where you can have a tent, something a little bit smaller though, are those U.S. military ponchos. Work fantastic. Now, I have used those in the past, and there's different configurations. I learned one configuration from a book that I had read. It was referred to me, 6 ways in, 12 ways out by U.S. RSOG. And they had a couple configurations in that book that worked out, that I tried. It worked out really well, and I like that. So that's kind of like a backup. Military ponchos of that sort are a little weighty, but they work well. They're rugged. They have the grommets, the metal grommets, so you can definitely rig them out. So that's something that you can look into as well. Just an option, just an idea, just throwing it out there for your consideration. Also in shelters, for me, I don't know about anybody else, you can let me know out in the comments, but in shelters, I also include clothes. Anything that's going to help get between me and the elements. So I will take some extra clothes and socks. Not so much shoes. The boots I have is going to be what I'm going to be wearing, but perhaps a light jacket or something, because I also allow for layering, adding on layers and taking off layers if I'm having to travel across land. Make room for that in my bugout bag as well. Now, I will do a separate video on clothing because it's very important for the clothing that you choose. If it's in the wintertime, you want to stay away from cotton, especially if it's a cold rain. It's like 51 degrees, 41 degrees. As you may have heard that saying that cotton kills when you're out in the wilderness and it gets a little cold, because it does not dry well. It takes a long time. So anyway, I will be doing a separate video on that. So the shelter, you could have a tarp, your tent, a poncho, and of course clothing. I include in that also sleeping bags. I can include a sleeping bag and the sleeping pad, because you want to isolate yourself from the ground. So there's a couple ways you can do that. If you don't carry a pad to sleep on, you can just bring up a bunch of leaves. And when I say bring up a bunch of leaves, if you're going to be sleeping on it at night to isolate, if it's cold, if it's in the fall or the winter, you're definitely going to want that insulation. So you're going to probably want to rake up a bunch of leaves, at least 1.5 feet, 2 feet, because it'll compress as you lay down, but it works really well. From experience, I can tell you that it works really well. And sometimes if I'm feeling I want to be a little bit more comfortable, I'll make up that many leaves and then I'll throw my pad down on top of that. So you can definitely do that. And sleeping bags, there's different sleeping bags out there. We're not going to get into it in this video. But anyway, I include that in the shelter category for my bob. So all those things are covered. And I believe that's all I have for this video. Yeah, so we are going to progress through the rest of the items that we have on the list of 7 essentials. And so we shall talk to you later. And hey, listen, if you haven't already, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button for me. And then if you find that this video has provided you with some useful information, give it that likes, that thumbs up if you would. We'd greatly appreciate it. And perhaps also if you know someone that's having a hard time or is new to prepping, please just share this video. Share and like it. I appreciate it. So anyway, hey, we'll talk to you later on the next video. Bye-bye.